guys, it's Victoria, and today I thought we would do a review of the upcoming books for the next winter, spring period of time, and just go over some of the books that have kind of caught my eye and I may or may not pick up right away, but definitely I have these books on my radar and I am very interested in them. I have 15 books here on my list, and so let's go ahead and jump into the books that I'm excited about that are coming out in January. The first book I have to talk about is one that I actually just ordered, and so I definitely will be reading this one, and that is An Anonymous Girl by Greer, Hendricks, and Sarah Pekkanen. This author duo had a very popular thriller book come out last year, which was The Wife Between Us, and I didn't read that, but I would like to get into thrillers, possibly. I haven't really read very much in this genre at all. In fact, last year I tried a thriller and I DNF'd it. It just didn't work for me. And so I'm really looking actively for thrillers that I might like. I believe this book centers around a psychological study, and a woman signs up to be sort of a, I guess you would call it a test subject, sort of. There's a better word for that. But they sign up for this study, and the questions that are asked of them become more and more personal and involved and borderline inappropriate, and there is some action and mystery that unfolds from there. Again, I'm mostly just picking up this book based on the authors being extremely popular. And wow, does he stop itching? You're hearing his collar right now. I'm sure that you are hearing it in this video. Always, every time I film, there's always something. Life with pets. Anyways, the next book that I have to talk about is also coming out in January, and that is Slayer by Kiersten White. This looks like it is a new book in a new series centered around Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the world of Buffy. And I am a big fan of Buffy, and I'm desperate to rewatch the show very soon. But I saw this and was very intrigued. I'm just very frightened that it won't be good and that it won't be done well. And so I don't know, I'm gonna wait for some reviews, I think, before I pick this one up. But I am interested, but I'm also afraid. Hopefully it's good. If you've read Kiersten White, maybe you have a little insight into that. I haven't read her yet, although I own And I Darken by her. But let me know if you are interested in this one as well. I'd be curious to know. The next book that I have to show you is Maid, Hard Work, Low Pay, and a Mother's Will to Survive. And this is a nonfiction by Stephanie Land, and it is all centered around a woman who becomes a maid, and it's her experience as a maid. I'm always curious to read nonfiction that's about specific careers and career paths and the pros and cons of it. And I believe this book also goes into, the negatives and how she's treated as a maid, and is essentially an exploration of poverty in America as well. Sounds very interesting. I definitely do want to read this one. Next, we're going to go ahead and go into the books in February that I'm interested in. The first one being Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. This is the first book in what is, I think, projected to be a trilogy. It is a fantasy book that is African folklore inspired, I think. The main character's name is Tracker, and he is literally a tracker and a hunter. Tracker and a host of other characters come together in order to find a mysteriously lost boy who went missing 3 years ago, and our adventure goes on from there. This has a lot of reviews already on Goodreads that are very positive, and by big people too, like people like Neil Gaiman are talking about this book. Another way it's being described is an African Game of Thrones, so if that's something that might interest you, pick this one up. The next book that I'm interested in coming out in the month of February is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is strictly a cover buy for me, I think, because the cover is gorgeous and the title is really interesting as well. I haven't read any of Samantha Shannon's previous books, but I know she is fairly popular, I think, in the more young adult area. All I really know about this is there is a queen and dragons, and that's enough for me. The last February release that I will talk about is The City in the Middle of the Night by Charlie Jane Anders. I recently saw booktuber Daniel Green talk about this book as one of his highly anticipated books, and it sounds interesting from the synopsis. I'm going to have to read this one out loud to you because I just don't know exactly how to give a good synopsis, but it's a set on a planet that has fully can't speak words. Set on a planet that has fully definitive, never-changing zones of day and night, with ensuing extreme climates of endless frigid darkness and blinding, relentless light, humankind has somehow continued apace, though the perils outside the built cities are rife with danger as much as the streets below. But in a world where time means only what the ruling government proclaims and the levels of light available are artificially imposed to great consequence, lost souls and disappeared bodies are shadow-bound and savage, and as common as grains of sand. Like I said, from that synopsis, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around what this book is really about, but I am interested. It sounds interesting. Next up, I have some March releases to show you. The first one being When All Is Said by Anne Griffin. This book kind of gives me Mitch Albom vibes. It is following someone who is in a bar, and he is basically ordering 5 different drinks, and each drink is representing a person who's been important to him, and he's toasting to 5 people throughout his life. And these 5 people also sort of sum up his life and define it. This is an Irish novel. It is contemporary fiction, and it looks like it's highly anticipated by a lot of people, so I may pick this one up in March. The next March release I have to show you is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid went huge on BookTube because of the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That's right, that's the title. Again, I didn't get a chance to get to that book last year, but maybe I can jump on the bandwagon and try one of her new books. This story revolves around a fictional band from the 70s, and it is all about their rise to fame and possibly fall from fame as well. I love music, and I love the music scene, and if this author is as good as everyone says she is, then this is going to be a good book. The last March book I want to talk about is Sherwood by Meagan Spooner. This sounds fantastic, and I really hope it is, because I really want to read this one. Sherwood is the story of Maid Marian, and Robin Hood has been killed, and Maid Marian is basically taking up his mission and becomes a female Robin Hood. That sounds like fun to me, personally. Moving on to some books coming out in April, the first of those being Descendant of the Crane by Joan. This is a Chinese-inspired fantasy novel, and really, that's all I know about it other than the cover is gorgeous. I think in the story we follow a princess who is trying to avenge her father's death. This is a debut author, and I'm always interested to read some debut authors throughout the year as well. The next book that I have to show you is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I'm a big fan of Helen Jeppesen's BookTube channel, and she really likes Sally Rooney, and she's anticipating this book as well. So I like Helen Jeppesen's taste in books, and so I think I might like this as well. This is a coming-of-age story centered around 2 young people, 2 teenagers, and I think we follow them after teenageness? Wow. After adolescence, that's the word. We're doing great with words today. Anyways, I will probably pick up this book just based on sheer recommendation. The last April book I have to show you is Women's Work, A Reckoning with Work and Home by Meagan K. Stack. This is a nonfiction book about a woman who hires some Chinese laborers to help her raise her children so that she can also have more time to be a writer and to be a working woman. But through hiring these ladies, she discovers the injustice of the women working who really want to be at home with their kids and the way that poverty controls their lives. This book explores the concepts of marriage, motherhood, feminism, and privilege. And finally, we're going to talk about books coming out in the month of May. The first one, I'm sure, this is on many people's list. This is Again But Better by Christine Riccio. I am not really much of a contemporary YA reader, but I do really like Christine, and I feel like that's a big reason why people are going to pick up this book, whether or not they read YA contemporary. But I'm just really curious to see what kind of writer she is, and I feel like there's potential for really good things, because I really like Christine. I think she's brilliant, and I think she is very talented. This follows a young girl who's going to college, and she is pretty much work kind of student and doesn't have much of a social life. The main character, Shane, then goes to study abroad, and apparently life changes. I can already relate to Shane because I was the same way, and I really wish I had gone to study abroad when I had the chance, but I was very work kind of student. So I think I might maybe even resonate with this one a little bit. The next book I have to show you is The Bride Test by Helen Hoang. I am not much of a romance reader. However, this author exploded on BookTube last year with The Kiss Quotient. And this is her second book, I believe, and it sounds, honestly, it sounds really cute, even to someone who doesn't really read romance ever. This sounds cute. In this book, we follow two Vietnamese people. This is Kai and Esme. And Kai is a man living in America, and his mother goes to Vietnam to find him a suitable bride. She finds Esme, who is living in the slums in Vietnam, and brings her home to meet Kai. However, Esme's seduction of Kai does not go as planned, and we'll just have to see what happens in this one. And finally, the last book that I would like to talk about is Romanov by Nadine Brandes. This is an Anastasia retelling, and I love everything Anastasia. This seems to be a historical fantasy retelling as well, so there is some of the magic elements in here. You don't have to try very hard to get me to read a book. As long as it's about Anastasia, I will pick it up. Those are all the books that I'm interested in coming out in the spring. Let me know if you are interested in any of these as well, or if maybe there are some books that I didn't put on my list that maybe I should. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more bookish content from me. And I will see you in my next video, and I will chat with you in the comments in the meantime. Bye-bye.